Hey, how's it going? I'm Frank Rolon Jr. And today we're going to talk about manifestation. Many of you have come to me and asked me to do a segment on this because you have heard my teachings in person. And I thought it'd be a good time to come out and create a video that helps to be able to clarify some of the questions that many of you had in one place. Although I may not cover everything, and I think this should be like a little ongoing segment until I can cover many areas of your concern, we're going to start off today and kind of build the foundation and a basic understanding. But even some of the things I speak about today may be some of the keys that you need to be able to create the things that you want to be, do, or have, excuse me, in your own life. Okay. You know, about the time that The Secret came out, the video and the book, there were many people exploring this law of attraction because it sounded amazing. It sounds like, wait a second, all I got to do is say these magic statements and to control my thoughts. And, you know, there's so much more to it. And I think, you know, The Secret did a great foundation, but sometimes some people still are confused with it. And I think that when it comes to understanding the law of attraction, one needs to realize that it's not just your thoughts that become things, it's the emotional state, how you truly feel about something. You know, because around that time, I know there was a lot of people going around saying, I am a millionaire, I am a millionaire. And interestingly enough, because they only had maybe 67 cents in the bank, they weren't believing their own statement. They weren't believing their own a mantra that they were stating over and over again. You know, when you have a thought that you want to bring into reality, first and foremost, it's something that you must feel inside of you, whether it's something you want to be, do, or have. If you're saying, I am a millionaire and I have $1 million in the bank, but you can't get or generate the emotional state that solidifies that statement, then it will never come into fruition. So there are some things we're going to discuss and some things that will help you understand of how to create that feeling. You see, when you make an Amazon order, okay, and you push that buy now button and it says the item, you know, order received, and then later on you go online and you see that preparing for shipment and order shipped, you have this expectation that you know is going to arrive. And it's really no different with the law of attraction, but you have to be able to believe that. And right now, if you placed an order for, let's just say, a radio, you know it's coming. You know it's coming because you've had experience with that. So as new participants in the law of attraction, you have to be able to practice that emotional state to know that what it is you're focusing on is actually going to come. So one of the ways that I like to do that is to have you understand that whatever you focus on becomes your reality. Okay. So if there's a hint of doubt in what you're focusing on, then that becomes your reality. Your fixations are your creations. Okay. Your world is your perspective. So sometimes it's easier to generate the feeling first. In other words, you have to practice. Like, I used to use these wouldn't it be nice statements to help me out. Wouldn't it be nice to always have more than what you need? Wouldn't it be nice to look in your bank account and to see many zeros at the end of the first number? Wouldn't it be nice to always have enough time to accomplish your task? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to live the dreams you have? You see, now those create a feeling that feels good. And sometimes we need to start there. But there is one place that you can start even before that, and that is with something called gratitude. Now, many of you have heard gratitude, but I don't think some of you have really embraced the power and importance of gratitude. See, whether you know it or not, many of you are living a life that is someone else's dream. Someone would love to be able to have what you have. Do what you do. Okay? Be who you are. And in so taking that for granted, you may not have expressed the gratitude of all the wonderful things that you already have. And I like to start my morning with gratitude statements. And even then, as I'm lying in bed in that magic moment, there is a magic moment every day, by the way, that you can participate in, and it can start your day in an amazing way. And that's that between state, between your sleep state and your awakened state. And you're laying there in bed, and you're in that magical moment where you're not quite awake, yet you're not quite asleep. That is the time to start creating. That is the time to start your day positively, and even with your gratitude. I just want to take a moment. This is what I do internally. I want to take a moment and just thank the universe. Thank God for the beautiful day that's set before me. I want to thank God for all the things that I have in my life, who I am, for my health, for the air in my lungs, and even to awaken on this day. Now, many of you may think that's just a cliche, but it starts the energetic process for creation. See, many of you are in positions now that you've outgrown. You ask yourself, why am I still doing this job? Am I doing it out of fear? Am I doing it because out of need? My financial situation dictates that I must continue to work this job that I outgrew. It's not something that I want to do anymore. It's not something I want to be any longer. But if you focus on what you don't like about it, you literally are creating more of that in your immediate life. See, as you sit wanting something different, be grateful for where you're at now. I'm gracious and I express my gratitude for the position I have now that is literally setting a foundation for my next steps. I want to express my gratitude for everything that I am as I move on to the next step. Now, sometimes creating something new means you have to do something yourself. Beyond getting a complete picture of what it is that you want to do next or have next, okay, be grateful for what it is you have now. And by expressing that gratitude, that is literally putting out to the universe a creative energy. And I understand that some of you may be asking, like, how does that actually start the foundation to that? Well, see, many of us have this thing about the word deserve. Do I deserve additional riches? Do I deserve to be wealthy? We have put a stigma on wealth because from our youth, people have told us that money is the root of all evil, that you should be content with what you have. Don't be greedy, simplify. And those are all noble traits to an extent. But one thing that sometimes people don't understand is that you can have divine riches. You can have things in your life that helps you to expedite helping others. You can have extra finances in your life to be able to assist in the things you want to be, do, and have. I mean, we have somehow put divine abundance in the background, thinking that we have to be some monk in the hills with zero wealth. Divine abundance means that you have the ability to do all the things you want to be, do, and have, and be able to facilitate. Better health comes with more finances. You can eat better if you have better finances. You can dress the part because you have extra finances. And I'm not focusing on vanity or ego. The thing is too many times people have associated wealth with ego. Now, does ego exist because of wealth, or does wealth exist because of ego? That one you can answer for yourself. How will you manifest? How will you utilize the wealth that you have in your life? See, that is something that is only on you. I struggle speaking about this because I came from a very conservative background. If I told you some of my upbringing, you'd probably not believe some of the things I share with you. You see, many of us don't believe we deserve divine abundance. I came from very meager beginnings. I mean, I remember living in a banana patch growing up on the island of Hawaii. I had to go out and milk the cows, and to take a bath, it was in a wash tub where water was heated on a wooden stove. My bathroom was an outhouse about 70 feet into the banana patches in an old tandem wooden outhouse. And the reason I share that is because I have gratitude even for that. I have gratitude that my beginning gave me contrast of what I wanted to be, do, and have. And there is nothing wrong with wanting more. So I wanted to kind of set the foundation for that divine abundance can assist you in helping others. It can assist you in being able to do and be and have more to facilitate even benefiting others. But even if it was just for yourself, divine abundance gives you a better life. Having the necessary finances even assists in better health, better foods that you can eat. It opens up your explorations of this planet. Okay. So I'm just asking, please consider the fact that you don't have to be a monk in the hills living with absolutely nothing. If that is something you want to be, do, and have, then there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay. So stop living the guilt that you don't deserve more. Okay. Start where you're at. Give gratitude for everything you are, everything you have, and understand that there's other people out there, once again, that would love to have your life. There are many perspectives on how to create. Many perspectives on how to heal, to amplify your own frequency, for spiritual enlightenment, and to bring hope, and even to offer forgiveness. There's many perspectives on how that is done. But one thing that is absolutely certain that many people miss when it comes to creation is that you must come to terms. That means be in control of your thoughts, your emotions, your responses, your mindfulness. So ultimately you can live the serenity that you want to live. Now, if you're not in control of your thoughts, emotions, responses, and your mindfulness to ultimately bring serenity, then you don't really have a clear, definitive path on what you're trying to attract into your life. See, a lot of times our unbridled thoughts are thoughts that are literally filtered through your past. Things that have hurt you, injured you, things that you still connect to, whether it's forgiveness issues. You see, even when we talk about the heart chakra, which is so relative to the heart chakra, when it's at its highest frequency, means that you have no unresolved issues of self-acceptance, self-love, self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others, process of letting go, guilt. So ultimately you can live that banner of contentment. One thing that we cannot remove from the equation of creation is that we must have a pure and clean heart. I'm not saying that many out there have not created without doing that, but if you're trying to live your highest and best and being your highest, having your highest, okay, then you must cut the cables, cut the cords of those memories. I like to ask people, what is your first memory? I mean, think about that for a second. What is your first memory that you can even see pictures in your mind? Was it at 2, 3 years old, 4 years old? It's very important to acknowledge that, and you'll find out why in a second, because the next question I'm going to ask, from that first memory, whether it was a birthday party, whether it was you remember getting a new puppy, or on your first swing set, whatever that memory is, it's very important to ask yourself this question. Is there anything from that moment to now affecting me to be my highest and best. I'll give you a very fun little example. Let's just say that you, listening to this, at 5 years old, you remember being in kindergarten. And you remember a guest art teacher coming, okay, to school. And on this day, we'll call her Mrs. Williams, she brought little drawing paper, colored pencils, markers, colored pencils, etc. And she handed it out to the class and asked you guys, she said, I want you to draw whatever it is that makes you the happiest, okay? So you go up and you gather all the materials that you want. You decide to use markers and colored pencils. Someone else decides to use crayons, etc. But now you're all seated quietly. Except the movement of the markers and the rustling of the papers, you were in your own world and you were drawing whatever it is that makes you the happiest. Now let's just say you're starting to draw and you notice someone named Heather next to you and she's drawing a daisy. But Megan over here, her mother's an artist, and Megan has become quite the artist herself. And everybody knows that Megan is going to draw something really cool, okay? So now Mrs. Williams, about 10, 15 minutes later, starts walking around you guys. And now she peers over your shoulder, looks down at your work and says, why can't you draw more like Heather and Megan? Look at how much detail and attention they put into their work, thereby creating self-acceptance issues. You have doubt, lacks confidence now in what you do. Moving forward now to 12 years old, you find that you don't even really care for art anymore. That one little statement by Mrs. Williams created doubt in your ability, created lack of self-confidence in your ability to draw. Even to this day, you say, hypothetically, you find yourself not even wanting to go to a museum. You don't even care for art. So I share that with you because it can be such a small thing that created this cable. And that cable is a filter to your present because you view the world through that now. You don't express yourself artistically because of one little statement. Let's just say another one of you, and let's just say at 26 years old, your best friend fooled around with your significant other at the time, okay, boyfriend, girlfriend, and all of a sudden created trust issues in friendships, okay? That's another cable that you're carrying with you. You may not even want to hang out in groups of people to this day because of that. So that filter that is in your heart, it takes you back to that moment to where you're not truly present right now because you have not let that go. So the reason I share this is because there needs to be some sort of resolution to that. There needs to be a visit to that timeline where you can create a statement of resolution to let that go. Okay, I will make another video to that. In fact, I have another teaching on that, and I call it it's a virtual medicine wheel teaching. I'll put a link down below to how you can find it, but it's a teaching that will help you to cut that cable, cut that cord. Now, the reason this is important to creation is because how you resolve that will be how you literally resolve your creation issues. Because if many of you are struggling to create and to use the law of attraction fully, then you're going to find out that it's synonymous with how you think and the things you say and how you say them, because we are a very visual society. And until we cut that cable to where when we reflect back to our youth, to our earliest memory to now, and there are no longer any red flags. Oops, that I still didn't forgive Stan for not paying me back that $50 I lent him. I still hold bitterness for this relationship where he left me abruptly, he left her abruptly. All those cables of our connection to those memories create a barrier to our present. Okay, so I won't go much further into the past aspect, but in covering your statements of resolution or even your statements of creation, we have to be free from that past, okay? Because there's something there that's preventing you from believing that you deserve the wealth, abundance, health right now, okay? See, when your internal dialogue is just on unrestricted autoplay, that's the proven fact right there that you're still reflective on the past. You need to be able to control your thoughts, emotion, responses, mindfulness, so that you can live a life of serenity. Your past is literally blocking your present and your future access. So when we talk about coming to terms, thoughts, you can ask yourself right now, what are my thoughts? What am I thinking about right now? Am I really engaged in this conversation of entertaining the law of attraction? Am I truly present? And if not, you have to understand that your unbridled thoughts are sometimes like a bottle floating in the middle of the ocean. It's just going wherever the waves take them. We have to be able to control our own inner narrative, our own inner dialogue. When I get up in the morning, I make a choice, right? I start off with gratitude, but I make a choice of what kind of day I'm going to have. Am I going to fixate on what the news is telling me? You know, many of us start the day, turn on the news and hear all the bad things, and that starts our day. See, for myself, I can't watch the news. And I'm not telling you not to be informed. I'm telling you to be able to control your emotions. And I'm able to control my emotions by reading the news, because I made a promise to myself that as I read these news, I will not get emotionally attached to something that I cannot directly change right now in the moment. Okay. So I acknowledge what's there. If I have to make a phone call to a representative and address a concern, I'm going to do that. Or I'm going to write it down and I'm going to snooze that concern by writing it down and then dealing with that later. So you can even benefit from this before you go to sleep. Before you go to sleep at night, if you have any thoughts, worries, concerns, issues that is hounding you, write it down with kind of like a virtual snooze, that you're going to deal with this later, but you're not going to let it affect your peaceful night's sleep. Okay. So if there's an argument that you have, you're going to put it down. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to deal with this tomorrow, 10 a.m. Okay. So you're literally snoozing it so that you can have a moment of peace. I teach about this when I talk about meditation. I'm going to create another video on meditation and how you can achieve that meditative state without the distractions that you may face to be able to assist you. So remind me of that. You know, you can put in the comments, hey, Frank, you said you were going to make a meditate, because that's an important thing even in meditation, is to be able to snooze the thoughts that are preventing you from being very peaceful, present. We're going to also talk about that in my breath work video, where I'll be covering how to breathe and why it's important to breathe a specific way, even how your breath assists you in creation. Okay. So one of the things I want to speak about is when we talk about preparation of creation, is one of the first things you guys can do is to literally, number one, deal with the issues of the past. Okay. Like I said, that link that I provided earlier, and I'll provide one more time again, it's a complete teaching on that, because it's so important for you to be able to clean the path. Next thing is to increase your frequency. How do you increase your frequency? See, what you need to understand is your behavior is effectively related to your frequency. Frequency pretty much dictates your behavior. Nature is creation. And by being in nature, you're incidentally putting yourself in a frequency of creation. So that's one way to incidentally to start your creative processes. Okay. To even have the desire to want to create. See, many people don't create. Many people go to work, they come home, and they just do task. They're task driven. Okay. They're on this treadmill of repetitive behavior, but they're not creating something artistic, okay, musical, say woodworking, baking. See, creation is one of the, when you start to create, one of the first things you do is become incidentally connected to the aspect of giving and sharing. Because if you create a song, what are you going to want to do? You want to share it. You bake some cookies, you're going to want to share that. You cook a meal, you want to share that. You learned a song, you want to share that. And that is one of the first aspects that you're going to find out of creation, but you need to get in that frequency. And if you're not in nature, then you're not in that frequency that kind of sparks that creation. And you go outside, hike a trail, go to Sedona, climb a mountain, get out, go by the forest, sit by a stream, go to the beach, okay? Go outdoors. The frequency of nature, I won't talk excessively about a frequency of 528. Many of you know the magic frequency of 528. Start immersing yourself in this frequency because it is a frequency of nature. It is the frequency of the heart chakra. It's the frequency of love. It's the frequency that sparks creation, compassion, acceptance, unity. It's one of the only scientific frequencies that is known to repair human DNA, okay? I have another video coming out just with the teaching of 528 and the many wonders and how you can benefit from it. But without getting into explicit detail today, just know that if you put yourself out there in nature, you are putting yourself in the frequency of creation because nature perpetually creates, okay? It's something that I'm going to tell you, you cannot get enough of. And for those who cannot get out into nature repetitively, then I would ask, you would use frequency surrogates. What is frequency surrogate? I'll even provide a link right here for music in 528 that I've created, because even putting yourself in the frequency of 528 in music, you'll start to find that you feel different. Your body responds different. See, I always tell people, like, when you go to Sedona, Arizona once, you'll want to go twice. And why is that? Because that of which makes up Sedona, geological composition, everything you look at in Sedona is made out of silica, sandstone, feldspar, basalt, which is essentially quartz crystal. And it produces a frequency that is beneficial to the human condition, even solidified by a couple of French scientists that I'll put their names below. But interestingly enough, if you get out into nature in that frequency, it's something that your body incidentally knows it needs and will draw you back to that. You'll want to go back to Sedona, whether you thought you went there for ATV riding, whether you thought you went there to go shop the shops there, whether you thought you went there to go hiking, you're literally going back because your body's desire to feel that elevated frequency that you may not feel every day in whatever it is that you do, okay, wherever it is that you work. You may not have that same frequency. Maybe you work indoors in an office all day long and you never have the opportunity to put your body in that condition. It is the number one thing to start off. After cleaning your heart, getting into nature induces that frequency that inspires you to want to create, okay? So enough said about that. I put that link down for 528. Another thing you can do is to keep some of those crystal around you. Now, personally, I like to use crackle quartz. I just put the name down below because you're saying, what is that? Research crackle quartz. One thing I like about crackle quartz is it doesn't need to be rejuvenated. It doesn't need to be recharged. If you use regular quartz in your presence and other people are around that are of low vibration, negative, say you have negative Nancy working in the office next to you, and you're surrounded by this negative chatter all day, what ends up happening is that crystal absorbs those frequencies. Crystals are living things. They produce a frequency. They're frequency stabilizers. But in the midst of it, quartz will tend to absorb negative frequency. And believe it or not, it will get logged or bogged down by all this negativity that if you were to take it home, put it in a clear glass, put that crystal in there, bury it with some pink Himalayan salt, which is a cleansing agent, put it in the sunlight, which is a purifier, for a mere 2 hours, you'll find that all that salt around that crystal will turn black because it's literally pulling out the negative energies from that crystal. So I use crackle quartz because of the mechanical stress of the earth compressing on that crystal, it creates what appears to be cracks and striations inside the crystal, but it literally prevents external manipulation of energy to affect it. So right now, even beyond this camera on my desk, I have a large crackle quartz crystal. And that crackle quartz crystal helps to create a surrogate environment, a frequency above 528 and above, which it pulls us out of the lower frequencies. See, one of the lowest frequencies the body is acclimated to is of the root chakra. Now, that doesn't have to be a bad thing, but I'll share briefly. The root chakra is correlated to our fight or flight, our survival instinct. Ancient cultures, even Native Americans, would use like a low frequency drum, boom, 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 before they would go into battle. It would embolden their warriors to go into battle wholeheartedly, fierce, without doubt. But it literally gave them that feeling of security. As you know, in other teachings, again, I'll put these other teachings out. Some of them are already there. Others I'm going to recreate to expound a little bit more about these behavioral frequencies and why you behave the way you do. But if your 7 chakras are not balanced, then you tend to be fixated on maybe only one of those chakras, which are influenced by frequencies that influence that behavior. So let's just say your root chakra is influenced by a low frequency of 25 to 75 hertz. Have you ever been at a stoplight and all of a sudden a car pulls up and there's this low frequency bass coming from the trunk? Boom, boom. You don't really hear it, but you feel it, right? Now, that is root chakra music. And again, if all 7 chakras are balanced, then you have balanced behavior. But let's just say you're only attuned to that root chakra music, that lower frequency. Remember, fight or flight, survival instinct. That's what makes you feel safe. That's what makes you feel secure, okay? It's funny, the music will even influence the area of the chakra, which just happens to be in the lower sexual organ. Interestingly enough, say you're at a wedding, DJ drops the beat, boom, boom, boom. What do? You and many others will be on the dance floor moving what part of your body? Moving that butt, okay? Swaying it back and forth, gyrating, moving it, doing your little pelvic thrust because it influences them. And then other frequencies in the body that I won't talk about on this video will vibrate in the throat chakra or the crown, and now your hands are waving in the air like you just don't care because the frequency is influencing the movement of the vibration of the chakra. So that region you're literally reacting to. So going back to the behavior, if you're only in fight or flight, survival mode, you don't feel safe. You may feel like I got to carry a knife here, a gun here, maybe another one here. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I'm saying if that's your only chakra, you tend to look for a demon under every rock because you are on survival mode. Okay, you're only focusing on your survival. So the reason I'm sharing this is because these frequencies of behavior, of having a frequency surrogate of 528 and above, will open you up to creation because it also has love, compassion, frequency associated with that stimulates the other chakras. So please look for my other teachings on chakras as well. Very important as I set the foundation for manifestation, that you understand that to put yourself in a situation where your body is ready for creation means to have your body immersed in a frequency that prepares you for that. Okay. So we talked about music in 528. And now we're talking about frequency, crystals as a frequency surrogate. Okay. We talked about gratitude in the beginning. We talked about cutting cords of the path. We're talking about preparing you with the creation frequency of nature. That sets the stage. Because now, when you're in that mode, then and only then can you truly get to a point where you're doing willful creation through your thoughts, emotion, responses, mindfulness, so that you can live that serenity. Okay. I want to give you a fun little example of how I used my thoughts to create something in my life. When I was running a tour company back in the day, I needed a specific vehicle because I ended up getting a phone call that gave me the opportunity to take out a visiting dignitary. And it was going to be able to take him and his family on a tour. And I didn't have that level of vehicle to be able to take out a dignitary and to give them the type of experience that not only that they would have demanded, but to give my company the reputation that it deserved to be able to take out a dignitary of that capacity. So I didn't have the financial means to do that at the time. But instead of focusing on lack, I focused on the possibility of being able to expand my company by opening up the door to take out dignitaries. So what I did is I got an image of the vehicle that I wanted. I'm not going to go into specifics of that other than I took a picture of a vehicle. And I'm talking, this is the vehicle. This is the one I wanted. And what I did is right above my bed on the ceiling, I pinned this, I tacked this thing, or actually taped it to the ceiling right above where I was laying. And then what I did is I set an alarm. I set an alarm for 2 a.m. And 2 a.m. every morning, it was like 7 to 11 days, my alarm would go off and I would take a flashlight, okay? It's like one here. And I would shine that light on the ceiling, okay? And I would look at that image of that vehicle. And as I would look at that vehicle, I would start to feel gratitude. I am so grateful that this vehicle is on its way. I am so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to take out dignitaries and expand my business. I am so grateful that this vehicle is going to help me to attract more dignitaries, okay? And so I could share the magic of Hawaii to these visiting dignitaries. So every morning at 2 a.m. when that alarm would go off, that would be my response. I would immediately shine a flashlight and I would smile. I would express the gratitude for already having this vehicle, that it's on its way, kind of like the Amazon order that I placed, and I'm just waiting for it to arrive, okay? So I think it was like 7 to 11 days later, I get a phone call that someone wanted to be able to provide this vehicle for me. I mean, out of nowhere, I get this call and I'm given the opportunity to own this vehicle. And I did have one of my staff take out this visiting dignitary. I won't name his name, but him and his family came and we gave him a wonderful outing on both the Hilo side of the island and the Kona side of the island. So amazingly enough, starting the internal dialogue after all the other things I've mentioned, getting into the habit of the reason you exhibit gratitude, because it produces a feeling. And it produces a feeling that makes you feel elevated, like, wait a second, I already have all these things. I have so many things to be grateful for, because there's a lot of things in your life right now that if you go back 3-4 years prior, you didn't have. And you just forgot to give thanks for that. Or if it just slipped your mind not to exhibit the response. I mean, if someone gave you a gold watch, wouldn't you say thank you? Wouldn't you express your gratitude? But there are many things in your life that didn't come as a form of a gift that you may have failed to respond with gratitude. So that's why I say starts with gratitude. It opens the door, and putting yourself, cleaning your past. You don't know how important that is. I mean, I want to create videos on just forgiveness alone, because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, many people have a misunderstanding about forgiveness. We literally think that we're letting the other person go from the things they've done to us, the wrong they've done to us, that we're setting them free. But that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is to set ourselves free, okay? It gives us the liberation from the connectivity of those issues that other people kind of brought into our lives. And sometimes it's us. Sometimes we need to go back in the past and forgive a younger version of ourselves. Again, just touching minor bases on this thing, because it's important to bring the best you to the creation table, to when you start wanting to bring the things you want to be, do, and have. One of the next things I like to do is to really identify what I want to be, do, and have. Some people use vision boards. Some people use a notepad. Whatever it is that you're going to use, you need to establish a very clear picture. Now that you've already set the foundation of gratitude, now what is it that you want to move into next? Is it something you want to be? Is it something you want to do? Or is it something you want to have to facilitate what you want to be and do? See, those are things that you honestly need to ask yourself. What is it that I want to bring? Do you just want to bring in money for the sake of having abundance? But the more you define like what it is that you want, the clearer picture you can actually have, and the clearer image you have in your mind, the clearer you can associate that with a feeling. You see, like, just to say, I want $100. That's it. I want $100. What is the emotional attachment to that? But what if you want $100 so you could buy a gift for someone? I want to buy a birthday gift for someone. You see how that creates that emotional stirring inside? Because it's that emotion that'll bring it. I want to attract $100 so that I can buy this amazing gift for Tom. And you can see Tom's happiness upon receiving this gift. The emotional state of that is so important, because that sets off the frequency of creation in the ether that is going to bring people that may provide that for you, or you may find that you have something to trade. There's no rules, restrictions, and regulations on how this thing comes into your life. If you're restricting wealth coming into your life just by a lottery ticket alone, then you've only created one stream of it coming into your life. But if you're open to always, and that's why being present is so important, because by being present, you're tuning in to your intuition, which many of you don't trust. See, your intuition may come in the mind, but you can literally confirm it with your gut. In Chinese teachings, they talk about your dantian. Japanese call it hara. India, sometimes they reference it to a source of prana. But nevertheless, in the West, this location beneath the belly button shoots impulses into the gut. And in the West, we call it our gut intuition, our gut feeling. But it literally is the first brain. But the problem is when we have an intuition, like say you wanted this $100 and your intuition told you that you needed to go to the mall. But you say, I don't want to go to the mall. I'm busy today. Why would I want to go there for? Instead of asking your gut, should I go to the mall? And what does that feel like? See, the beautiful thing about the gut is it only really can produce two feelings. One that feels good, or one that doesn't feel good. One of excitement, like a kid running to the gates of Disney, and another one where it just feels angst. That's your no. So when you ask yourself, should I go to the mall? And it feels good and exciting, go to the mall, because there may be something that your intuition is leading you there for to help facilitate what you want to be, do, or have. Maybe it was the way that you were going to get this $100 to buy a gift for Tom. You see, so being present is so important. And like I do have other teachings that are out there already, and even more that I'm putting out about your gut feeling and how to start trusting your gut. Because too many times we poke our intuitions with a stick and we kill the very thing that was trying to lead us. You know, remember, there's no coincidences in life. If you're being called, speak to this person, and you deny that intuition by, hey, I'm not gonna, that person looks weird, I'm not gonna talk to them. Or you could have opened up conversation. Hey, that's a cool bag you got there. Where'd you get that? And all of a sudden in conversation, you find out that this person is the key holder, the gatekeeper of one of the things that you wanted to do, or something that you wanted, you know. Oh no, you know, it's funny, that bag is kind of cool. I saw one at a yard sale, and they also had this other thing, and it's the thing that you wanted. And all of a sudden they're giving it away now. And you could have had that, but by poking your intuition, you missed out on opportunity. So you see, when it comes to manifestation, it really takes you to bring your highest and best self. I'm not going to say other people hasn't created things in their life, but the bottom line is sometimes their fixations are so strong that even with heart chakra issues, they're able to bring it. But when you're trying to do something, especially I found in the spiritual empowerment realm, where you're trying to bring healing, when you're a motivational speaker, when you're trying to help others, you being present, you're a better healer. You're a better intuitive. You're a better empath. Because you can feel what people need a lot better, a lot more intently. Even if you're a body worker, energy healer, you bring your best self. You can find where the pain is sourced at and how to clear the dense energies that may be preventing them from experiencing healing. So for today, I just wanted to cover this aspect briefly. To bring your best self to the creation table, start to establish in clarity what it is that you want to bring into your life. And whatever it is that you decide to be, do, and have it, put it down on paper, create that vision board, look at it, feel what it would feel like if you had that thing. Feel what it would be like if you were doing that thing, being that person. Okay, it's very important to start that infrastructure. And I know if this sounds elementary up to this point, this foundation is actually key to the part that I'll share next. In the very next video, I will pick it up from there. I will pick up from that point where you've already identified exactly what you want to be, do, and have, and how now you can start that spark to bring it into your, I've come to a point, and I'm not going to say what I'm saying next to spark envy, but I'm literally able to create at the speed of light. If there's something that I want in my life, I will focus on that and I will have the gratitude, but I have a clear picture. And that clear picture is already resolved in my mind, that because I have this picture and my feelings are connected with it in such a heightened sense, that it's already on its way. I know that I know that I know. So the last thing I want to share with you in regards to living in that world of knowing is you need to control that inner dialogue. I always talk about the dichotomy of your thoughts are kind of composed of light and night, or knowing and doubt. See, your light side, let's just say that's left. When you're attuned to the light side, that's a world of knowing that anything that you want in your life, that as long as you focus on it, if you focus on it with a love and an energy of knowing that it brings you happiness, it's on its way. The doubt side, or the night side, is that little cast of doubt that, I don't know if I deserve that. Maybe I can wait for my next paycheck. Maybe I'll just save up for it. And that's not necessarily a bad route. But if you're doing it with that negative that you may or may not deserve that, then you're literally creating the resistance of that coming into your life. Okay. See, your night side is literally there to keep you safe. It's the one that's saying, well, be careful with that investment. But if it puffs its chest and it creates so much doubt, and you embrace that doubt to where everything is fear, then that's what you attract more of. You create more lack in your life. Where when you embrace the light side that you deserve all good thing, that God, the universe, you can never outgive, and there's not an ending supply. See, we live in a limitless universe, but through teachings that you've heard in the past, that if you've embraced as your laws, okay, you embrace this as your dogma, you've embraced that, you've held on to that. So you're restricting creation in your life because of restrictive statements that you've heard, that you've embraced, because that's the night side telling you that that's all there is. There's limited. The world is limited. Where the other side talks about this unlimited universe. Okay, a flower lives, a flower dies, a flower regrows, another seed is cast. We live in an unlimited universe. Nature reflects that. Okay, so I wanted to share that to control your inner dialogue to positivity. Listen to positive affirmations that you either create yourself or tune in. I have some positive affirmation. I can put a link down below if you want to start off with these. Again, it just helps to change the inner dialogue. Before I go to sleep, sometimes I put my headphones on and I listen to these positive affirmations. Why? Because I want to go to sleep with that. So I'm cutting all the cables and the cords. Okay. I'm snoozing things that are of concern to remove all that. And then now I fuel my mind with positive affirmations to create, okay, to create in my sleep the positivity that I'll awaken to. And even then I have a choice, okay? So today's segment just sets the foundation, and maybe I'll even name the video that, Foundation of Manifestation, all right? I want to thank you guys for joining in and tuning in on this little segment. I look forward to the next segment that I'll be recording here shortly, taking it to the next step from once you're able to define what it is you want to be, do, and have. Tune in to that video that I'll be posting up here shortly. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Frank Rolon Jr.